Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Ward 5 Neighborhood Advisory Board meeting. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. If you'd like to give public comment on today's agenda, please fill out the public comment form up front and return it to me. Thank you. Vice Chair, whenever you're ready to call the meeting to order, it's 5:32.
All right, thanks, Kelly. Let's call this meeting to order. We get a roll call.
Sure. Kayla Bailey is absent. Bryce Chisholm,
Present.
Kathleen Arends, absent. Mayumi Doyama,
Present.
Camila Ray, Stephen York, absent. Jessica Bullard Nolan, Lindsay Darrow,
Present.
Megan Dettenmeyer,
Present.
Corey Fredericks,
Present.
Denzel Martindale, Abby Lugtug.
Present.
We have a quorum of the Ward 4 Neighborhood Advisory Board.
All right, thanks, Kelly. Moving to item A2 and opening public comment.
Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the NAB's agenda. The NAB may not take action upon any matter not agendized on today's agenda. When you're called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name and you will be afforded 3 minutes. If you're an attendee in the Zoom meeting and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand at this time. I do not have any public comment cards in person, and I don't have any hands raised online, Vice Chair.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to A4, approval of the agenda.
For the board, I let the Vice Chair know that we're going to move some things out of order. So we're going to take the development projects out of order, and then we're going to move the staff liaison report to the end, and then the election of board secretary after that, so I can give the board some information. But I'll read through the order we're going to go through. So we're on A4. We're going to go to A5, then B2, B1, C1, A6, A3, and then D, E, F, and G. So if someone would like to make a motion to approve the agenda with those changes.
Camila Ray for the record, motion to approve agenda.
Jessica Willard Nolan seconds. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, great. Let's do A5, council liaison report.
Yes, so I said we were going to do A5, but Councilmember Devin Reese is actually out sick tonight, so he's unable to give us a report.
Okay, let's go to B2 and get the development projects going.
All right.
Oh.
Perfect. Good evening, NAB members. Thank you for hearing us tonight. For the record, my name is Garrett Gordon. I represent the owner of the subject property, Germany Properties. And tonight we're talking about a potential conditional use permit for a proposed tenant in their facility, which, as you can see, will be a company operating a boat and rental sale operation. Subject property, as you're all aware, I-80, north of I-80 is Cabela's. To the west of Cabela's are two Dermody buildings. Building 1 is the one closest to the residence. Building 1, Building 2 is the one highlighted there in yellow. Tonight, we're talking about Building 2. Building 2, as you can see, is zoned mixed-use suburban. It's hatched there, again, right to the west of Cabela's. In Reno code, in order to do boat sales, requires a conditional use permit when 12 or more boats will be stored on site for sale or rental. So the concept here would be more than 12 boats, and that's why we're before you tonight. As I mentioned, top left-hand corner, there are two buildings, Building 1 and Building 2. Building 2 is a larger building. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner is just a picture of what that building looks like. And we will be talking about the lower third, approximately half or third of the building is where this tenant for boat sales would operate. Included, you can see here, there with the little red square on the southeast corner is where the tenant again will operate within the building. Outside would be a boat hoist. It will be located within the truck dock area for loading and unloading. So trucks would pull up, trailers would pull up, pull the boat out, put it on what's called a Wiggins lift. I learned about that. It specializes in boat lifting, a forklift, bring the boat inside for storage, winterizing, etc. And then when there was time to bring the boat out, same equipment would come back out and put the boat back on the boat, the truck or the trailer. So a boat hoist would be included with this request. Forklift and Wiggins lift, equipment that's needed would be stored indoors. This is a big one. I wanted to make sure this is absolutely clear that this request does not ask for any outdoor storage. There will be absolutely no outdoor storage on the site. And one of the conditions of approval in the use permit, I want to thank staff for working with us on this application, all washing, servicing, or maintenance of all boats shall occur indoors. So it's an indoor use. Here's a site plan. So you can see there in yellow, the south portion of the building, approximately 118,000 square feet, would in fact accommodate and house this tenant. Winterizing would also occur. So once the boat comes in for the winter, just routine maintenance such as seasonal preparation, drainage, protecting systems, stabilizing fuel, cleaning, maintaining batteries, and interior items, shrink wrapping, as you've all seen, shrink wrapping boats in the wintertime. And those would be stored, again, inside the building. You can see that hoist is located as close to the building as possible, but convenient to lift the boats up, remove them, and put them into the yellow hatched area. And with that, that's all I have. I'm used to a lot more complex and complicated projects, but this one is pretty straightforward. I'm happy to answer any questions, and we do head to the Planning Commission tomorrow night. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Camila Ray for the record. So you just represent the property owner, not necessarily the owner of the business who will operate within the facility?
That's correct. So my client filed the use permit application. We've executed the owner affidavit, and then for purposes of the application, we're also the applicant. So we're doing this on behalf of our tenants, which is pretty common for the landlord to kind of take the cost and the time to go get this done, and then hopefully it's approved and the tenant can commence operations.
Camila Ray again for the record. So my follow-up question then would be, do you anticipate any number of jobs or any kind of impact? Do you have any thoughts or data on that?
That's a great question. I don't know how many employees they will have. Maybe I will make sure to have that information for Planning Commission tomorrow and make it clear to the Planning Commission that this question came up at the NAB, and I'll be prepared to answer it.
We have a question online.
Yeah, Megan Dettenmeyer for the record. Curious about, you said all of the washing and maintenance will occur indoors. That I'm assuming will mean that all of the chemicals or any sort of soap or anything you're using is going into a normal drain. None of it is going to be pushed, onto adjacent land. Is that a correct assumption?
Thank you for the question. Absolutely a correct assumption. We've already been in contact with city staff on the types of drains that will be required and to make sure it meets all environmental standards. So it will be all self-contained in the building.
Tammy Larray for the record. And as far as the number of boats that would be stored inside, and it wouldn't be like big deliveries, like as far as access in and out of that property, thinking about the neighborhood experience of the area that's further west of where this will be. Could you, like, as far as like, there's no big deliveries or anything like that? Is it single boats coming in and out? Give us the feel for that.
Yeah, it's a great question. That's why we thought this use was a good one, at least in this area, because you're not gonna have the big semi trucks pulling in the dock doors and then pulling out. For the most part, single owners bringing their boat in for the winter, picking it up. There are boat sales though, so, I want to be transparent. There might be a trailer that comes in with a couple more boats than one to kind of put there for sale, but certainly it wouldn't be like a typical manufacturer or industrial use that would have semi trucks and happening fairly routinely.
Danny Martindale for the record. Is there a time frame? You're saying there's not going to be any boats on the outside. Is there a time frame such as somebody delivers, or let's say you have a hot moment and you have 5 people delivering? What kind of time frame do they have before they have to get them inside?
They would have, so our hours of operation that we're proposing are 8 AM to 6 PM at the site. So we would believe that everything would have to be indoors by the time we lock the key and go home at night. So it wouldn't trigger outdoor storage. So by the end of business, approximately 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Bryce Chisholm for the record. And I guess that was my main question. So it's mainly storage. People are bringing them in off the lake for the winter. And then, but there will be sales so you'll have a few boats there that are for sale. Is there rental? Because it says something in here about rental as well.
There would potentially, thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman. The land use category for the use permit is required for sales or rentals.
Yeah.
So we were really applying for the sales piece, but certainly if this is approved, it wouldn't prohibit, or it actually would now allow the ability to rent. But not typically. Typically you handle that up at the lake itself. But again, maybe they end up renting some boats for folks who don't want to buy.
And I know many people that do this, they usually bring them in September or October and then leave them all winter, pick them up in March, April, whatever it is. So you'll actually might be kind of slow during those winter hours. So it seems fine to me.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
We have Megan online.
Megan Detmeyer for the record. If the permit is granted tomorrow night, is that in perpetuity or is it a 1-year permit? I'm not quite sure how that works. I was just wondering if we wanted to revisit this, or if we receive complaints, or is this a permanent thing if it's granted tomorrow night?
For the record, Garrett Gordon. So yeah, conditional use permit, if approved, runs with the land and then perpetuity unless the business is stopped or abandoned for a period of 6 months. So there wouldn't be a relook by this body or the planning commission unless for some reason they weren't complying with their conditions of approval or any other Reno code requirements. Code enforcement always has the right to come in and revoke a conditional use permit, and there could be a hearing at planning commission in the event that occurred.
Thank you.
Which has happened recently, downtown with some liquor store businesses have had approvals revoked, but we certainly don't anticipate any problems here.
All right, great. Is there any public comment?
Yes, I do have one public comment card in person, Mac Rossi.
Good evening, Mac Rossi for the record. I'm just curious about one item they talked about where they're going to be washing the boats. Where is the drainage going to go? Is it going to go into the river? And the reason I'm asking this question, because I'm not sure what they use, I'm not a boater, but these barnacles or something that the Lake Tahoe doesn't want anything on their lakes. Would this be anything where that item might be drained into the river? Thank you.
Thank you, Mac. That is all the public comment I have registered for this item. I don't have anyone on Zoom with their hand raised.
Okay, thank you. Good question, Mac.
Answer. Happy, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
For the record, Garrett Gordon. So we are working with the city on all environmental requirements for winterizing boats. But this company has operated in other areas around the lake, et cetera. So they're well aware of any requirements that may be triggered by a winterization. So nothing new to them, but it's a really good point, and we'll make sure we talk to the city about it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, appreciate it.
All right, thank you for that presentation. I think we can move on to B1 now. And that is the River Hill setback deviation.
Good evening. My name is McKenna Perry, for the record, and I'm here to discuss River Hill setback deviation. This is my new build property up in Somerset, and I'm here to discuss a goal that we have. We'd like to enclose our patio, and in order to do that, we'd like to build the patio cover. This is one of our neighbors' rear yards, and you can see this very nice patio cover that they have. It was built by Zion Builders, and so this is kind of our inspiration for our project. But where we run into an issue is with the plot map. So our property line starts at the split rail, and we have a 10-foot setback on our plot map. So that gives me about 5 feet plus to work with for a patio cover. We're hoping to do a 10-foot patio cover, which would encroach into that setback by about 5 feet. Oops. The Somerset Owners Association Aesthetic Guidelines Committee did review this project proposal, and they approved it at their September 4th meeting. However, to move forward, the city of Reno will require a major deviation. Therefore, I'm here today to request a major deviation to reduce the 10-foot rear yard setback noted on the plot map down to 5 feet to allow for installation of a solid aluminum patio cover attached to the rear of the home to be installed by Zion Builders. This is a depiction of where that proposed patio cover would be located. You can see marked in red, it is attached to the rear of the home. And just for reference, some photos. This is the view from the rear yard. You can see that we back up to a very steep slope, so there are no neighbors on the rear side as well as the east side. And then you can see the home on the west side is still under construction and is unoccupied at this time. Here is our development project application number, as well as the link to our project online. I've been assigned Jeffrey Foster for my associate planner for this case. Donald Weaver with Zion Builders is the general contractor that we have partnered with for this project. And my expected planning commission meeting was bumped up, originally November 20th and now expected for November 5th. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, do we have any questions? Please.
Danny Martindale, for the record. I did drive by this property, and there's nobody on one side of it, correct?
That's correct.
And it doesn't look like they can build on that site?
We've been told they won't.
Okay. And is that wall back there, is that 8 feet?
I haven't measured it myself. It is a permanent retaining wall. It does stretch all the way around the entire inside of the development.
It's pretty
and
high. It doesn't
much
look like
taller than
there
me.
could be any obstruction of views or anything like that. I mean, you got a large hillside behind you. So I didn't see any issues at all with this project.
Sounds like you're pretty good here. So good luck on your date on our.
Thank you. Just trying
I
to.
have one question. This is Lindsay Darrow. if you were having to come up with an objection for this, can you think of any objection that anyone would have?
Limiting construction hours to a reasonable time, which I think already is in the Somerset expectations. So just making sure they're not starting at 5 a.m. and going until 10 p.m.
But you can't think of a reason anyone would object to this construction, like the actual having
The
it?
actual permanent structure?
Yeah.
No, that's why I did like to show that photo especially up from the top of the hill. There really is, no restriction to emergency exits. It's not going to create noise. It is fully compliant with building codes. There are other neighbors in the development who already have such structure made by the same developer. I'm just on a smaller lot, so have to go about a different process to get it done.
All right. Do we have any public comment?
I do not have any public comment in person. I do not have anyone online with their hand raised.
It shows our anticipated planning commission date is October 15th. Is that
I think this one it's
Or-
November 20th on the
November 20th.
agenda.
Okay.
But like McKenna said, it sounds like it was just moved up.
the 5th?
November 5th, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank you. All right. I think we can go to C1. Business items. And that is Regional Transportation Commission, Ward 5 General Project Updates.
Good evening. I'm Paul Nelson. I'm a Government Affairs Officer at RTC, and I'm here to give you guys an update of some of the things we did since the last time I talked to you all, and then a preview of some of the things that are coming down the line. Some of the things that I'm going to talk about with public transit and some of the planning might be review. So if you've heard it before, just let me know and I can speed up. So you guys all know about our RTC ride. It's the backbone of our transit system. We're really proud of how well our ridership is growing right now. We're on 37 straight months now of ridership growth. So more than 3 years, month over month, we've seen our ridership growing. We've got a fleet of all electric, diesel electric hybrid, and hydrogen fuel cell. The hydrogen fuel cell buses aren't running yet. We've got 8 of those. We do plan on getting those up and running, hopefully in the next couple of months, as soon as our permanent fueling facility is installed. Sounds like that's getting pretty close, and we're excited to get these things running. Those buses are electric buses that the hydrogen charges, rather than have to plug them in and wait for several hours for them to charge up. 60% of the trips are work trips, so it's important for people to use this system in order to get to their jobs. Bus rapid transit. We're seeing a lot of growth in this. It's very popular. Virginia line is by far our busiest corridor. We got over 1 million rides in the last 12 months on the Virginia line. And then the Lincoln line that goes from 4th Street Station down to Centennial Plaza down by the Nugget, 461,000 rides. So between the two, 1.5 million, and you saw almost 6 million for the entire system over the years. So these two rides account for about 23% or so of our total ridership. One of the nice things is the frequency about this service. It operates, or it stops every 10 minutes, give or take. Microtransit, we call this flex ride. We got 4 zones where we really don't have a solid amount of fixed route service out there. This is the largest one. This goes from our state line all the way to Sierra Street. So this is where you can call one of these. It's like an Uber or Lyft. It'll show up, cost $2. They'll take you anywhere within that zone. And if you want to go farther, they'll take you to a bus stop so you can get on your way. So the 4 zones we've got are Sparks, Spanish Springs, North Valleys, Somerset, Verdi, and South Meadows. A couple of programs we have: taxi bucks for seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities. They get a card, and every month that card auto loads $60 to it, and they can use that card until it's gone. The following month it reloads. Van pool program. This is a very popular program. We're top 10 in the USA. It's a carpooling service. Enterprise provides the vehicle. There are subsidies involved. You can have 5 to 15 people riding in it. It makes this vehicle very affordable, and especially the long distances that people have to drive in our region sometimes for work, whether it's USA Parkway, Carson City, Susanville, Lake Tahoe, Truckee. There's a lot of long distance commuting. So this actually took more than 20 million vehicle miles traveled off of our roads in the region last year. We're really happy about our newest program, the Youth Ride Free program. EdPass program has been around for a while, so if you're a student or an employee at one of our 4 colleges up here in Northern Nevada, you can ride the bus for free. Doesn't matter where or what time. It doesn't have to be for school or for work. You can be going to the grocery store. It doesn't really matter where you're going. Youth Ride Free, we just started. It's for all Washoe County School District students that sign up for it. And same thing, they can ride our buses for free. We partnered with the Washoe County School District on this program because they are really trying to reduce the amount of tardiness and absenteeism. Sometimes transportation is a cause of that. So we're hoping that that'll cut that down. On top of that, you've got summer programs, summer jobs, evening jobs, services. You've got extracurricular activities that students want to participate in, and sometimes transportation gets in the way of that. So we're really happy about this program. We just started it back in June, and once school started up, we really saw a big jump in the amount of people that were signing up for it. So we're going to see how this goes. Right now it's a pilot program, and if it's successful, we plan on continuing it on. We're also working with some of the charter schools so that they can also participate in it. So planning, this is another, so we have public transit, we have planning, and then we have engineering. So we wrapped up our 2050 update to the Regional Transportation Plan in February. It was approved. And this is the document that every single project that we do in our region starts in this document. This is our 20-year outlook. We're actually ahead of the curve because we're going all the way out to 2050. So we're 25 years ahead, looking at what we want our region to look like in terms of transportation when it comes to 2050. So we went out, we talked to the public, we had several meetings, and we took everything. We wanted to find out what the community's vision was. We put that into this. And then once we get down to like the 5-year mark, that's where we really kind of prioritize. That goes into our Regional Transportation Improvement Program, that's our 5-year program. Then we go down to a 2-year program where we're working with the governments, the local governments so in the next 2 years, we'll know which construction projects to do, and then we get on with construction. But it all starts right here. So a new thing that we started about a year ago is the neighborhood network plans. We broke up the region into 12 neighborhoods. We started with Central Reno and Central Sparks, so number 9 and number 7 on that map right there. And those studies are completed. Now we're looking at putting these into motion, putting the things that we found, trying to put some improvements in to make bicycling and walking in these neighborhoods a lot better. So as we're trying to begin those, now we're doing the study for number 10 right there, which is the Meadowood Mall, Hidden Valley, Donner Springs area. And then also number 2, which is Sun Valley and Panther Valley. So we're studying those right now. We're looking at all kinds of different ways that we can make things just a lot easier and safer for people that maybe they don't want to drive. They want to walk to the grocery store within their neighborhood, and we can make things a little bit safer and more comfortable for them. So some of the things that we can do, we call these quick builds. These are really inexpensive projects that we can do very quickly. We also have some long-term projects that we want to look at more, that take a little bit more money and a lot more infrastructure to improve. But you can see they're simple little projects that we can put in place. The bulb outs over there for pedestrians, the pedestrian refuge in the middle. We've got the little roundabout right there that you can put little trees in to really calm traffic in some of these areas. And then bike lanes, that's a big one. That one down on the right, don't know if there's really any areas in town, but this was a street that they basically closed and turned it into kind of a community courtyard and events area. We also have, bike lanes, different ways of making bike lanes safer, whether it's putting the pillars there on one, concrete barrier, armadillos up there on the top right. There's all kinds of different ways that we can put these things down and do it quickly and make things a lot safer. When it comes to engineering, one of the things that I want to point out is that last year, the investments that we put back into our community for our infrastructure needs created 2,700 construction jobs. So the money that we're spending is staying local. It's going to people who work here and live here. Some of the projects that we recently wrapped up, this is up here on Beaumont. We've got our 2025, we do this every year. It's our pavement preservation program where we want to go in, we want to keep our good roads good. So the easiest and cheapest way to do that is pay preventive maintenance. And that's what you're looking at right here on these two pictures. So on the left, this was after we went and did some patching. There was also some crack sealing that we did. And then we put a layer of slurry over the top of it, restriped it. It'll make the road last a lot longer. One of the things that I'll also point out about this picture is a lot of times when developers come in and they build the roads, they might use cheaper material to go into it. And what happens when you do that is the cracks that happen, actually, the material shrinks. And that's what causes the cracks. And they're not little cracks, they gap out like that. So that's when you have to go in and put these big patches in like you see here. So corrective maintenance is another one that we do, and that's where you strip that top layer of pavement off and then you put a new layer down. And then rehabilitation is where we have to go in and really do a full depth reconstruction of the roadway. But the goal of this is to really keep our good roads good, save us a lot of money, and make the roads last a lot longer. 2025 bridge resurfacing. So we did 4 streets this year. One of them does go up into Ward 5, and that one is Ralston Street. We also did Coonsey Street, Evans Avenue, and Valley Road. These were quick jobs, probably about 2 weeks. We just had to go in, take that top surface off, put a new layer down. We also did a few upgrades to some of the sidewalks, made some upgrades to ADA facilities if they needed it. The trickiest one was the Coonsey Street Bridge right there by the ballpark. We had to work around the ACES schedule. We also had to work around special events. The sidewalk is actually part of the bridge structure itself, so we couldn't just tear the sidewalk out and build a new one. But that was deteriorating, so we went and we found some other ways that we made some improvements using epoxy and things like that to get the sidewalks back in better working order. The McCarran and Keystone Leadership Traffic Signal. So this one was an NDOT project that we paid for out of RTC's funding. This was something that we really saw as a problem because before this intersection, you weren't allowed to turn left from Keystone onto McCarran, but people were doing it anyway, and it wasn't safe. So there was no crosswalks. It really wasn't safe, but people were still trying to do it, you know, playing Frogger across McCarran Boulevard, basically. So we got this stoplight in, better crosswalks now. So we do think that this is a lot better for not only driver safety, for people that are getting onto McCarran, but for pedestrians. And also, there's a lot of people in this area that they want to go north and go up into the hills, whether they're hiking or riding bikes or things like that. So this one got completed just a few months ago. Another one that we did was, this is one of our traffic signal modifications we did. This is over on McCarran and 7th. This before that bus station right there on the left, that used to be way up there on the other side of the intersection where people were turning into the shopping center. It really wasn't very efficient because the bus would have to stop in that turning lane when people were trying to go around it to turn into the shopping center. So we moved that bus stop all the way down. Across the street is some apartments. We also put in this pedestrian hybrid beacon, which is a lot like those other kind of yellow flashes that you see, pedestrian push the button, the flashers go off. This is the new generation of that, where it actually has red lights. So you treat it as a stop sign or a stoplight, depending on what color and whether the lights are flashing. So we think that this will make things a lot safer for people, especially from those apartments across the street. They're either getting across the street to the bus stop or across the street to go to the grocery store or some of the other businesses down there. Some more traffic signal modifications we've got. So traffic signal modifications is a program that we do every year. We probably have about a dozen different projects throughout Reno and Sparks. 2 of them that we've got coming up here in Ward 5 are on 7th and Robb Drive. That's right outside McQueen High School. There's a stop sign right there. When I was out there taking these pictures, I just saw a guy just buzz right through. Didn't even notice there was a stop sign there, or didn't care. One of the two. We're going to be putting in some flashing lights there for pedestrians because this is a very busy area, especially in the mornings and evenings when the students are getting out of class. We just want to make sure that they stay safe as they're walking across the street. Another one that we're working on is on Mayan and Robb Drive. This one, as I understand it, is more about making the intersection more functional, especially for people that are making right-hand, left-hand turns. Next year, we plan on breaking ground on the 7th Street, 6th Street, West Street pavement rehabilitation project. So 7th Street, this is the boundary right between Ward 1 and Ward 5. You can see how beat up that pavement is. You can also see there's a lack of sidewalks and there's foam poles that are along the road that are blocking access for people. So this is going to be a pretty big project in terms of not just rehabbing the pavement, but also rehabbing or building sidewalks, replacing curb and gutter where it needs to be in drainage and things like that. So this goes from Keystone over to Washington Street. And then downtown, we've also got 6th Street and West Street between Arlington Avenue and West Street. So that's right there in front of St. Mary's Medical Center. And then West Street between 5th Street and 6th Street. So a couple blocks right there that we're doing also. The biggest little bike network. So this one reaches into the limits of Ward 5. This is 4 routes that we've identified to improve bicycle safety and comfort and really just allow people to get back and forth. The main focus of this is safety, but then also connectivity, getting people from Midtown, downtown, and Old Southwest in certain neighborhoods like that up to the other side of the interstate. We also have 5th Street that goes east and west. This is an ideal road to do this kind of thing on because right now we know that there's more lanes on that road than we need. There's not enough traffic for 4 lanes, so we don't have to require any right of way for that. We can just shrink it down to 2 lanes, put in the bicycle infrastructure. There's also going to be some areas where we'll have floating bus stops so that the bus won't be cutting across a bike lane when they stop. So the bike lane will go behind the bus stop basically. So we're really excited about this project. We expect to break ground in the spring or the summer and make things a lot safer for people that want to walk or ride bike down there. One change we did make since the last time I was here on this was on Lake Street, Evans Street. Before that red line went all the way up to basically 5th Street and then cut over to Lake Street. We changed that because it goes right past our 4th Street bus station and there's conflicts right there with buses that are coming in and out of the bus station. So now we're turning people onto 2nd Street and then they'll turn left right there in front of Greater Nevada Field and then continue up on Lake Street, Evans Street. 2027, we've got the Keystone rehabilitation, and this is going to go from Coleman Drive all the way up to McCarran Boulevard. Same kind of situation as I showed you on 7th Street. The pavement it's at the end of its life, so it's time to revamp it. Those sidewalks are really beat down, so in certain areas, we will be replacing sidewalks, curbs and gutters, drainage. There is a possibility that that intersection right there on the bottom with where Coleman intersects with Keystone, we could make some improvements to the way that functions, whether it is putting some kind of a different kind of traffic calming device. There's also, we know that there's chicanes is when you go farther up Keystone, you got those chicanes that you got to go around. Different ways that we can look at to try to keep people from speeding up and down this road as well. So we're looking at everything. When we do these projects, we try to leave no stone unturned. We want to make it as good as we possibly can. Another one that we're doing right now is the TRIC connector alignment study. We actually just had a meeting today regarding this commuter rail feasibility study. This would take people from Reno and Sparks out to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center. We all know what a mess Interstate 80 is when there's bad weather or a crash or a stalled car. And we know that NDOT plans on widening the interstate between Vista Boulevard and USA Parkway. But we know that as that area grows and as more people move here, the problem isn't going to get much better. So we're trying to find different ways to do that. That's why we're doing this commuter rail study. We're also looking at another option of building an alternate route between Spanish Springs and USA Parkway. This was the one that was a toll road bill that died in the legislature. Right now, we're looking at ways that we could maybe get a BLM easement, find federal grants possibly, find maybe federal loans, figure out a way that we could pay to build this road, just to take about 10,000 cars off of Interstate 80. That's about what the count would be. 10,000 cars would use this road. And it would also be an alternate route for people if there is a bad crash where I-80 is closed up between USA Parkway and Vista. People can take that up to Spanish Springs and then cut back down if it saves them time. So we know that having one route in and out really isn't feasible. That's why we're looking at different routes for traffic and also this commuter rail feasibility study. When it comes to our budget, you can see the biggest part of our revenue comes from local fuel taxes. And then the second is federal funding. So we do get formula funding every year. And then we also can apply for discretionary grants, which we've been fairly successful at recently. We got a $25 million grant for Lemon Drive. We also got a $9 million grant for 6th Street, which we're going to be starting here in 2 years. We also get some sales tax revenue, which mostly goes towards our public transit. The fuel tax goes strictly to our engineering and road construction. The RIF, that's a good program we have for developers. Every time they build a unit, they pay a fee right around $5,000. That goes into a bucket, and then we can improve capacity that's caused from development. This is where our expenses are. So you can see most of our expenses come from the capacity improvement projects. We also have our operating costs for our ride, for our capital for ride, paratransit. We also have our preservation and multimodal projects. So, you know, we have a lot of different ways that we spend this money, and I think we do a pretty good job of keeping a tight budget. Sometimes we do push projects down one more year. Sometimes that's because we needed to use money that went up because of inflation to go somewhere else, and then we put another project off. Sometimes a project gets delayed because we have to work out some right-of-way issues and things like that. I put this up here just to show you a fee comparison because none of us like paying extra at the pump compared to our neighboring counties. But this is, when you break it down per year, you're paying about $195 per vehicle for your RTC share of your fuel taxes. Doesn't include the federal tax and the state tax, but what RTC gets, you're paying about $195 per year to fix the roads. Compare that to the sewer, to the water and the power. It's actually, when you look at it like this, I think it's a pretty good deal. Doesn't make you feel better when you're pumping gas, but wanted to put this up here just so you guys could compare what the fees and the taxes are in other areas. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thanks for the great presentation. Lots of projects, lots of info in there. On that last one of the fuel tax, I still just remember hearing about electric vehicles not paying fuel tax.
Mhm.
Is that like going to the state or what's
Yeah.
going on with that?
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a long time, and we do expect that in 2027, the legislature will take this up. We thought they might take this up in the last session, but I guess there just really wasn't any kind of political appetite for anyone to take the lead on this. We also know that the governor was in his first term. It's not very popular for a Republican governor to raise any kind of taxes or fees. If he gets reelected, maybe he'd be more likely to do it in a second term. We also need somebody that would make that change at the legislative level. There's also a possibility that that there are certain areas, like certain agencies that have a BDR. We have one BDR every session that we could put in. We could come forward with something like this, but that's something that we haven't done before. But we do know that the amount of electric vehicles on the roads is only going up. It wouldn't make a huge difference immediately. You're talking $5 million, $8 million a year, which that's, you know, that'll pay for, you know, at least one project a lot of times. But in the future, you know, if half of our vehicles are electric, that means a lot fewer fuel taxes and a lot more EVs that aren't paying at all. So we know that it's a problem, and we're looking at different ways to fix it.
Okay, thank you. And one other question. I was hoping Councilmember Reese was here because there was a project at is it Mayan and Avenida Delanda? There's school crossing right there. I don't know if that was you guys. They just put in the like buffers so the students can cross at this crosswalk.
Yeah.
I've personally seen 2 kids get hit there this school year already. And so like parents are out there walking kids across in the mornings and the afternoon right now. And they're talking about putting a light there, but I guess that's a year and a half off or something like that. Do you know anything about that project?
I don't know yet if we've got that in our plans. I was actually talking to Jennifer Iverson with Safe Routes to School, and she was talking about that exact intersection, saying that there's already been a few crashes, and we're only 2 months into the school year, 3 months. So yeah, we know that it's an issue. Is that right next to the fire station, or is that a couple?
It's on the other side. That's
Mayan.
that's Charlene's over on the other side. This is Avenida Delanda and Mayan.
Okay.
It's on the other side.
Between the elementary and the middle school.
Yeah, Billinghurst is on one side and then Westergaard's on the other side.
Yeah.
But they did do the slurry seal. I don't know what that helps to like slow things down or whatnot. But then they also did those buffers, you know, so less walking across the street, I guess. So yeah, I'd like to get an update on that sometime. So,
Yep.
All right, thank you. Is there any questions from the board?
Yes, Megan Dettenmeyer for the record. I, from the very beginning of your presentation, you talked about how bus rides were free for youth. And I believe you said that might have been a new program. I guess my curiosity is, has anybody engaged with the high school? I can't remember the name of it, but I believe there's like leadership councils at the high school that are liaisons between Washoe County School District and students. Has anybody engaged that leadership council that you know of?
Not that I know of.
I
In
think that
terms
would be
In terms of
just
the.
making them aware of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
We
feel
have
like
had,
that.
go ahead.
Okay. Okay. I just think that would be a really great avenue to get the word out for people that might not know that kids can ride free. I just would strongly encourage you to engage with the Washoe County School to see about that program if you haven't already.
Yeah, we haven't, not that I know of. Washoe County School District might have. We are partnering with them. They're handling most of the marketing campaign
Great.
for that. We're also handling some of it. We're doing some Facebook ads and TikTok, Instagram. We're trying to get the word out on our platforms as well.
Okay. And just one more, I really love to see the bike lanes that you guys are putting effort into. Because we live in such a bike friendly weather, from a weather perspective, community, I want to encourage, strongly encourage you to make bike lanes part of any future projects. They're a small addition to really reducing traffic congestion and increasing health, and I just feel like there are ways to safely ride bikes in this area, especially in this ward, and I would really encourage you to continue pushing those forward, especially the bike lanes that have the dividers that can really teach kids how to ride safely within traffic. So please keep putting your efforts towards that.
Yep. Thank you.
And Jessica Bullard Nolan for the record. I got my mic on this time. So I live not in Somerset, but in an area off Kings Row where we used to have a main route. And we have a route that went down Kings Row and connected with Keystone, and we don't have that anymore. And we have a lot of schools and churches and a lot of people that now have to like walk over to the 7-Eleven over at 7th Street area to ride a bus, or they have to walk through the San Rafael to go over by Virginia to get on over there. Are you looking at routes potentially with these programs, with the youth programs, especially for adding more routes in our area?
We are doing our TOPS program right now. So every 3 to 5 years, we go through, it's our transit optimization plan strategies. And we take a look at our overall transit network. And we just started this a couple of months ago. And we're, depending on what comes from that, we'll look at where the most ridership is, where does it make sense to have bus lines. And if we see that there is a need in that area, then that's something we definitely look at. We know that, same thing happened over in Sparks. We had more bus service at Sparks that we don't anymore. And that's why we have Flex Ride in that area. Same with up there. I think Flex Ride does cover that Kings Row area. So that's our alternative, like second best, I guess, when it comes to the bus lines that we did have to take out.
Yeah. And then my second part is also for the youth, especially ones going to UNR and TMCC. They have to go all the way downtown to connect the Virginia, for the Virginia line to go up to TMCC and go up Virginia if they're coming from the Northwest. Have you ever thought about going around, doing a loop around McCarran? So it connects people from the Northwest or anyone who takes the loop to go over to San Rafael for events or go to UNR, and they can connect to the Virginia line to continue on out to the valleys for work or TMCC, for example.
I don't know that we've looked at doing one around the McCarran Loop. I've also had a question before about if we want to have one running up and down Veterans Parkway. I don't know if the ridership is there. That's something that I hope we'll find out with our TOPS program. It's also, if you had one just going on the loop, It's probably not as direct as if you're taking a line down to connect to another one. But that's something that we're looking at, like I said, we're looking at everything kind of under a microscope right now to find out how we can make things better and more efficient.
If I'm up, it's Abby Lug Tug for the record. Thanks for your presentation. I have a question and then a comment. You had spoke about the youth transit as a pilot program and mentioned if it was successful, maybe you're going to ask for budget or something along those lines, but I was wondering what are the metrics to define if the program is a success?
That's a good question. I don't have that answer for you, but I can talk to our transit director and find out how we do judge whether it's successful or not. I'm guessing it's probably based on ridership.
Sure.
We're also working with the school district to find out how it's impacting their absenteeism and their tardiness, things like that. It doesn't cost us any money, luckily, because we're not adding any bus lines. If we have a bus that's carrying 5 people, it costs us the same amount as if it's covering, if there's 20 people on it. So by having these kids get on there is just an extra option for them. So it's not actually costing us anything.
Makes sense. And then the comment was on the Keystone Rehab Project. You called them chicanes. I've always wondered what they were called, and I live off of Keystone, so I hear the cars hitting the chicanes at night and running up the hill and crashing. So there was that intersection you had flagged. I'm forgetting the name of the street, but you had in the picture with the tree. Don't put a chicane there. It's a pretty dangerous intersection. So just, yeah.
One of the things that we're looking at with that intersection is, and it's early in the stages to see what are the best ways to do that, but a possibility is a roundabout, because you've got basically, it's almost like 3 streets right there, right? And it's a really wide intersection. So, and it stops.
Perfect. Perfect. I just was
so
like,
that's
please
one
don't
of the-
put a chicane there because people hit them at night really fast. They don't see them and it's really crazy.
It's like an obstacle course.
Mayumi Doyama for the record. I am so excited about the Biggest Little Bike Network. I think it'll be really great. And as a cyclist, yeah, I'm really excited to use it. I was just wondering if you were thinking about how to connect the streets that you'll be rehabilitating that are close to that network, and if you'll be prioritizing bike lanes on those streets as well.
Not every street is a good street to put a bike lane on. If it's like a really, 4 or 6 lanes of traffic going on it and 45 miles an hour, we might want people to ride bikes on different streets, maybe an adjacent street. So we look at that. One of the streets that we are definitely going to be making some bicycle improvements on is 6th Street. That was actually originally part of the Biggest Little Bike Network, but we got a separate grant for that street by itself. So that one goes from Virginia Street all the way down to 4th Street, where it loops around and connects. We're going to be shrinking that road down to 2 lanes with a center turn lane and on-street parking, sidewalks and bike lanes, a protected bike lane. When we do our rehab jobs, we also look at everything. We're not just fixing the pavement. Since we're here, can we fix the sidewalks too? Are there intersections that we need to upgrade for ADA compliance? Is there room on the road so we can put bike lanes in? So we're looking at all these different options when we're doing it. Another one that we're working on in next year is between Keystone and McCarran on 4th Street. That one we're shrinking down to 2 lanes. We're gonna have a bike path, actually a separated raised cycle track. So that'll make things a lot safer for people. So we are really trying to improve the bicycle infrastructure, not just downtown, but throughout Reno and Sparks. And some of them are appropriate, some of them aren't.
Hi, Lindsay Darrow. I also want to applaud that free youth pass. And I think I want to encourage you to think of it as more of a long-term investment because as kids learn to use public transportation, they become adults and they're comfortable with it. And it kind of changes the culture over time. So I think it's sort of like a long-term investment as well. There are some cities that are amazing, like how kids use public transportation. Like they roam around with their friends feeling, the cities become like Salt Lake City is one that comes to mind where kids all have a pass and that's like how they go to practice. It's how they get around. And so like the long-term vision of a less car dependent society, I think that's like one of the most important things you guys are doing. The second thing I wanted to say is just a very specific detail. And that is that I think Megan's comment to connect with the actual Washoe County schools would be really good because Washoe County Schools assumes if you live within a 3-mile radius of a high school that you are able to walk there. Like there's no busing outside within the 3-mile radius, which is like assuming a 6-mile round trip for kids. Like no one's really doing that. So what people are doing is just driving their kid 3 miles. I mean, that's like adding 6 miles per family, to the road every day. And I did notice, like, I only know my specific situation, but I have a high schooler going to McQueen. I know the arrival time where the bus that goes by McQueen arrives is at 7:15, but the school starts at 8. And so it's gonna like asking the kids to get there more than 45 minutes early, maybe like tying up the starting and end times with scheduling might actually help increase ridership.
Yep, I agree. And that's one of the things that you mentioned about future riders. That's one thing that we are with, not just with Youth Pass, but also Ed Pass. If people start using it when they're young and they find out how good it is, maybe they will keep on using it.
Cami LeRae here for the record. Thanks for all the information. It's a great update. I personally look forward to just learning about your work at the RTC. And this is just an educational question. So as you go out to Verdi, and it is already pretty heavily utilized by cyclists on the Tahoe Pyramid Trail, and we've got a park that Washoe County just put in by the river, a little parking lot there. And then on the east and west side of West Meadows, there's paved parking. I believe it's sort of, one is an access to sort of a motorcycle trail. The other one is used by fishermen that go down to the river. And it's a blank slate in a way. There's more and more people that are out there using it recreationally. The use is already there, but we don't have a walkability. You've got the shoulder of Old Highway 40 that's used for everything. If you want to walk down to the river, you're sort of on gravel. If you're on the shoulder, then you're in the way of the cyclist, and anywhere else you're on Old Highway 40 where traffic goes pretty fast, some of those sections. So how complex is it for RTC to plan in that area? Because I believe it's part of NDOT as well. So I guess there's two aspects of this. From a planning perspective, 2 to 5 or even beyond, where does Verdi fit in on that? And to be able to execute upon any of that, is it contingent on NDOT for reviews, approvals, what have you?
So we did in 2022, 2023, we did the Verdi study, the Verdi Area Multimodal Transportation Study, I think is what it's called, where we looked at the specific area, the different roadways, the type of infrastructure out there. We found that there's a lot of infrastructure lacking, especially for pedestrians and cyclists. So that's one thing that we are looking at. I know that NDOT is working on replacing, I think starting next summer, they're going to start replacing some of the bridges on the freeway. I think there's 9 of them between Robb Drive and Verdi, where they're going to be rebuilding those ones. I think Highway 40 is probably an NDOT road. One of the roads that we're looking at is the South Verdi Road. That one needs a lot of safety improvements, especially. It's a very narrow road going up a hill. So there's all kinds of different things that we looked at that we put in that plan, and who it's up to execute, I'm not sure. We don't own any of the roads, and I know Verdi is unincorporated. Part of it's in the city of Reno. So that makes it a little more complicated as well. But it really comes down to when we look at what is in our plan and then what the priorities of the specific jurisdictions are, that's really where we go with it.
Thank you for that answer, Cami LeRae again. So in knowing that there's, multi-jurisdictions that could come into play in what happens in Verdi, then what I'm hearing you say that as far as like a cohesive strategy, a cohesive planning strategy, there really isn't one quite yet, or does that exist in the document that you started the presentation with? Is there anything that sort of outlines the future of Verdi in that way?
Not that I know of yet. Other than that study that we did, I'm not sure what improvements that we're actually seeking out to make yet.
Corey Fredericks for the record. I have a few questions. You were mentioning the 7th Street to Washington, but actually further up and beyond where you did the 7th and McCarran like bus change, which is, I like it a lot. Thank you. At 7th and like Heights, there's a turn there. And around the same time you guys did the bus change, you also put in these like bright flashing arrow signs to like, I assume it was you guys, to direct people around that turn. It's right there as you would turn in to go to the school.
So is this west of Keystone?
Down by Grace Warner. So it's about halfway down 7th. If you keep on going down McCarran, it'd be on the right side as you
Okay.
did the second turn back down where before it starts going straight again.
Those I thought were really helpful. And within like a week or two, one of them already got hit by a car and was like busted out. And I was wondering, I know that is a very like that area and just around another turn just beyond that. Cars drive into those houses all the time, or their yards or their fences, things like that. So I was wondering if there was any improvements between those two sections, because also just beyond that, as Clayton is getting out or going into session, there's another school zone, and there's a crosswalk, but it's kind of confusing and drivers often like blow through that school zone and that crosswalk is very dangerous. So I'm just curious if there's any improvements beyond those flashing signs that were going into place there.
I don't know yet. I can get back and talk to our engineers and see if there's anything in the works.
Okay.
What, I'm confused on the neon arrows though.
Yeah, they're like
they-
bright, shining
They're like lights,
arrows. Yeah, they light
Oh,
up.
okay.
They flash. It's very
like a sign,
distracting.
but it's a light. Okay,
Yeah, like 5 signs.
okay.
It's like 5, yeah, arrows that have the flashing.
I don't know if
lights.
that was us or if that was the city of Reno, but I'll go back and I'll talk to our engineers and see. And if it wasn't us, we can talk to the city and maybe they can replace them.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, if they're meant to be a barrier, then they're doing their job. And if they're not meant to be a barrier, then maybe something else could be called for there. And then the bike routes that you're talking about and making it more bikeable in town, I'm curious, do you guys have like bike uh, routes posted anywhere, like signs that bikers can see or places that they tend to congregate where it's visible? For instance, like on 4th Street, you're putting in these new bike things. Currently, I know a lot of people will actually bike down to like Mayberry or find a more bikeable route that's a little bit safer. Is there anywhere that stuff like that is posted, or when you're doing these things that it gets posted for the people on bikes, like, hey, we tried to make this a safer route. This connects with these places pretty easily, things like that.
Wayfinding?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if we have wayfinding signs along these bike routes or not.
Okay. And then you were talking about putting in more bikeable spots on 5th Street. And in the past, I know 5th Street and like 2nd Street, you guys have put up, I'm sorry, I don't know the terminology, but they're like those kind of off-white poles that have like a flasher at the top and they bend over if, say, somebody were to drive over them. They're not metal, they're like plastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I noticed when those went up, drivers were actually pretty confused. So when you're making these changes, or like that crosswalk that has the flashing red light at 7th, say, is there any like information disseminated to the public, and how widely is that disseminated to say this is the new thing that we're doing, these are the rules for this? Because I found a lot of people that were like trying to drive through those or driving through, they didn't understand them. at all, and it was actually causing a little bit more chaos than maybe it was helping.
I don't know that, one of the things that with ones we're doing now, I know it's the biggest little bike network. We are putting the green stripes down in the bike lanes.
Yeah.
We're also putting more permanent, depending on which street, we're putting in more permanent barriers, whether it's a curb that's dividing it. Some of the areas might be flex posts still, but I think that if we've got that green paint on the inside, that should be a dead giveaway for drivers, you would hope. But yeah, I'm not sure otherwise. Oh, and if
Okay.
you guys want to learn more too, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but if you go to biggestlittleBikeNetwork.com, we've got animation that shows the different corridors and what we're going to be doing with those changes. So it gives you a really good idea. You know, it's rather than looking at pictures, you've actually got some moving animation of what it looked like.
Thank you. And then I have one final one, and I understand if you don't have info on this because I think the last time you did a presentation, you said that like the Stoker project was actually more NDOT, but you did have a little bit of information, and I was wondering if you had any new information on that.
Man, I should have called NDOT before I came down here. I actually thought about that project. I was driving back and I was like, I wonder when this project's gonna wrap up. This is in one of the wards that I'm giving a presentation to, and then I never followed up on it. So yeah, I don't know what their timeline is on that. I think that Stoker was supposed to be closed for, was it a year? I think it was supposed to be closed a year while they build the bridge.
Originally, they had an update that it would be completed in August, I think, or earlier, maybe July to August, and then it got moved to October. And now that it's October, I actually haven't looked to see if it got moved again. So I was just curious.
Yeah, I don't have an update. But we do work with NDOT on a lot of these projects. I'll make a mental note to call up Meg at NDOT and find out what the status is of that.
We all didn't know how important Stoker was until it was gone.
It's a pretty convenient little cut through, right? And then also buckle up for when we do the safety project on 4th Street, because we're putting roundabouts on the intersection of Stoker and 4th. And then also
I did
Summit Ridge
cringe a
and
little bit when you told me that.
4th.
I think everybody in Ward 5 wants to have that freeway Stoker project complete as soon as possible. Any more questions from the board?
Lindsay Darrow, one more question. You said you're now moving on to a couple other areas for like bicycle improvements. What's the process for if the community members want to give feedback for that? Like, are there opportunities for like beyond us?
Yeah, like if
to have-
people know that there's a project coming, we have all of our projects on our website and they can contact the project manager and give input that way. If we're doing a bigger project, especially a federal project where we've got federal money, we have public meetings for these things. So we do go out and we ask the public, you know, for instance, the bridges that we're replacing downtown, those ones as part of the process, we are asking the public, not only to ask them what they want, you know, in terms of how they operate, but what do you want the bridge to look like? So some of our bigger projects, we definitely go out and we have public meetings for these things. Smaller projects, it's better to call the project manager that's on the website.
I was meaning more, you showed that map with the different 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I thought you were kind of identifying, like not just like when a project is determined to be done.
Oh,
like where you're like getting ideas from people.
Yes,
about
okay.
improvements. Like what's the process?
Yeah, you're talking about the neighborhood network plans. Okay, sorry, I didn't realize that's what you were asking. So yeah, with that, we went out and we had, I think we had 2 or 3 public meetings in each of those neighborhoods when we did the planning last time. Now we're starting those up. We also have a citizens board that we're basically putting together from those neighborhoods that are going to give us guidance on some of the things they want to see. So yeah, this is very centered on what the residents of those neighborhoods want. And then we have a roll plot set out so people can come and they can draw on and write notes on the map and say, hey, this traffic signal is terrible, this crosswalk's bad, people are driving too fast. So yeah, it's a very, it's very easy if you want to get involved. Those ones are specifically, they're geared to make sure that the residents are involved in the decision making. And I don't know when the areas up here are gonna get their plan. We do 2 per year. And we're doing them based on a grading scale. And I don't know how they did the grading scale. I think it was based on lack of infrastructure more than likely, because I know Sun Valley was like number 3. So, and we know that Sun Valley is slacking in a lot of that. So I'm not sure where we are in terms of some of the neighborhoods up here in Ward 5, but I'm guessing, so it'd be 6 years, you know, if we're doing 2 a year, it would be 6 years. So I don't know if you're closer to the front or the back on that.
All right, thank you. Do we have any public comment?
Mac, did you want to provide comment? All right, we have Mac Rossi.
Just when you thought you were going home early. Mac Rossi for the record again. Couple of comments. Lil Ray, is that your pronounce your last name? I'm on the cab for the county over, meet over in Verdi every other month, the third Monday. We're gonna have Commissioner Hill over there. Might be time to stop by and say hello. It's an election year too, keep in mind. Electric vehicles. 2 years ago, it was brought to the legislature. The governor shot it down. It came in this year and it didn't go anywhere. They didn't have time for it, except the governor is now asking for more time to bring the legislature people back at $300,000 or whatever it is for the things he wants to take care of, but electric vehicles are not on the list. Keep in mind that the tax fuel that we pay takes care of our roads. Electric vehicles don't, and electric vehicles weigh more than our cars because of the battery. So they're wearing up our streets more than anything. The other thing is I'm going to be meeting with public comment with the RTC this month. And I just want this on the record. I'm not asking for answers. Oh, he says here, Joe. Thank you. I'm very familiar with the project on 7th and McCarran, where they moved the bus stop, and a couple of things that need to be addressed. Excuse me. First of all, you got a center lane that makes a left and a right-hand turn that goes, the right-hand turn goes across 2 lanes, which doesn't make any sense. It wasn't marked right. At least I feel it isn't. The signal over there is an unusual signal. It was originally set up as for the senior residents to cross over 7th Street from where they are, Vintage Hill, over to the shopping center. That signal was put in, but that signal is an unusual signal. When you hit it, it doesn't change right away. If there's cars coming either way, it makes the pedestrians wait, and they're looking and saying, this thing isn't working or something. Something needs to be addressed, at least with the seniors over there that are coming across. Part of when they moved the bus stop, they went ahead, and if you want to take a bus from number 4 to number 11, you got to go down 7th Street and go across the driveway that goes into the shopping center. There's no crosswalk there. They don't have it saying stop. They just put a stop sign in, but it doesn't recognize anything, and it needs to be addressed. That's it. Thank you.
Good timing.
Jackpot.
All right, thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Mac. Appreciate it. All right, I think next we can go to A6, the staff liaison report.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. Sorry to keep everyone here a little longer. I have a presentation tonight, but I'll try to move through it quickly. Go, am I sharing? Yes, okay. Okay, hello everyone. Callie Shai, staff liaison for the record. This is our first staff liaison report presentation. Very exciting. I'm going to start with some general updates and reminders, and then we'll dive into a little bit of a training topic. Tonight's topic is tracking planning cases through the city, but I'll try to move through it. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to unmute your mic and just interrupt me. I wanted to start by reminding the board about Reno Direct. Reno.Direct is the city's non-emergency service center. So if you have traffic-related service requests or you just have general questions about city departments, feel free to give Reno.Direct a call or an email. Secondly, thank you to everyone who confirmed their attendance for the meeting. You all should have received that quarterly quorum, so that's how I'll start moving through those. You'll receive another one in December for the first quarter of 2026, and then I'll be working with the board secretary to verify quorum moving on, but I'll talk about that more in a little bit. The city's newsletters. If you are not currently subscribed to these 3 newsletters on your screen, I highly recommend it. I'll go into those a little bit more later, but it's the Ward 5 newsletter, the Development Projects newsletter, and the Council Agendas newsletter. That path along the bottom, Reno.Gov, how do I sign up for our newsletters is the way you can get there, but this presentation is also uploaded to the meeting materials, so you can just click that sign up link to follow it. All right, the board secretary role. For those who were at the meeting on September 15th, you heard about the board secretary role. After this item, we'll do election for that. I want to note that with the new resolution, the board officer roles follow the calendar year. So we'll be redoing elections for the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary in January. So if you're interested in seeing what the board secretary role is like, you'll have 3 months to try it out, and then you can nominate yourself to do it again or not. So what the board secretary role looks like is, for one, they're responsible for working with me to verify a quorum. The way I've been introducing it to other boards is that ideally about 48 hours before the meeting, the board secretary would reach out to me, check and see if we have a quorum. I'll let them know if we do. If not, I'll say, not yet. I haven't heard from, X, Y, and Z. And then they can reach out to those board members to see if they'll be in attendance. The second responsibility is our minute taker for these meetings. So that, not to scare anyone, but that responsibility actually starts tonight. We don't have a contracted minute taker, but this was a pretty lax meeting. It won't be too difficult, and I'll be working with the board secretary on that. Moving forward, I'll be sending the board secretary a template, a meeting-specific template before every meeting that they can use to take notes in. Or they can take notes some other way and then fill out the minutes using the template. So they'll be working with me on that. Other board updates, there's currently 1 alternate member vacancy on this board. So if you know anyone who's interested in serving, you can direct them to Reno.Gov/boards. It has this great new interface when you go to that link. So the link to apply is right on the front of that page. I just wanted to make the board aware of an engagement opportunity this weekend, Saturday, October 18th from 9 to 12. There's the Ward 5 Biggest Little Fall Refresh Community Cleanup. So at the cleanup, residents can dispose of unwanted residential bulk waste. Hazardous waste and e-waste will not be accepted at this particular event. All right, some additions from resolution 9417. That's the board and commission's resolution. You all should have seen in front of you tonight the project review worksheets. Apologies, I didn't get to point those out before we got started. But these are the worksheets that you can use to provide feedback on a project. You don't have to use it as your public comment. You can submit public comment separately. This is just kind of track what specific feedback you have for the project. In working with the other boards, we can be flexible on these worksheets a little bit. The goal is to get them to the planning department and into the meeting materials. So regardless, that'll happen either way. But as you can see tonight, we had that one project that's going to planning commission tomorrow. So if you have comments that you would like those to get in, ideally get them to me by noon tomorrow. I know the boat sales one was not too involved. So if you'd like your feedback worksheet registered for that, get that over to me by noon. But the other one, not going to planning commission until November 5th as of right now. So you have a little bit more time with that. I like to say within a week or so, because I serve as the staff liaison for planning commission, I can get those in regardless. Just know that we have to be a little flexible on that. That's why the the agenda now includes the anticipated hearing date, so you have an idea of when the project is going to a hearing, and ideally when we need the project review worksheet to be turned in. Additionally, the resolution requires one board officer to provide public comment on behalf of the NAB at future public hearings. So what that looks like is the chair, the vice chair, or the secretary summarizing discussion from the board members and the public. It's not this officer's particular feelings on a project. It's just giving the Reno Planning Commission or the City Council an idea of what kind of discussion was had, what concerns did the board or members of the public bring up, and what was the general discussion. I've had a couple of different board officers ask if they should poll the board for their feedback. Hard no. We don't want to establish a walking quorum or discuss agenda items outside of a meeting. So either I would recommend officers to take notes during the meeting, or after the meeting, like I said, I'll upload those project review worksheets and the meeting recording will be available on YouTube. So that's kind of how you should craft your comment if you're going to, use those other resources. Outside of that, all NAB members, you're all welcome to submit public comment for any project. This particular summarizing comment is just required under the new resolution. And I've outlined the several ways that you can submit public comment to City Council or Planning Commission on this slide. With that said, if you're ever confused as to where to submit public comment, you can always just email it to me and I'll get it to the right place. I'm going to include this information either in a separate kind of resource or in these presentations in the future, so you can always go back and see it. All right, now we're going to dive in to our training topic. Before we do that, does anyone have any questions on the first couple slides?
Yeah, what's that say? I got a chair, vice chair, or secretary must provide
Yeah,
public comment.
provide public comment for future hearings. So that's the summarizing public comment. So today on boat sales, you could just give a general idea of what the board talked about. This one it's highly encouraged. I'd say for this one with the tight timeline, it's understandable if that doesn't get in time with it going to Planning Commission tomorrow. But it would ideally look like the board chair, the vice chair, the secretary. You could talk about it before the meeting. You could talk about it after the meeting, say, hey, who's going to submit public comment on this project? You are? Okay, great. And then it's just about taking in the discussion. Like I said, what concerns did they have? And then submitting that for public comment. Any other questions?
Hey, I got a question.
Yeah.
I see Bryce shaking his head over there. So like if he couldn't make one of those meetings,
Thank you for
you want to pull the
thank you for
committee and
clarifying.
ask somebody else?
Yes, this does not have to be in-person public comment. You do not have to come down to City Hall again to give comment to the Planning Commission. You can email it, you can submit it on one of those forms. You don't have to join the Zoom. You don't have to give live comment if you don't want to.
Yeah, but like with these projects tonight, my comment is it was fine.
Yeah, understandable. I think it's just about showing a record of the NAB's involvement in the project. It doesn't have to be some huge. It doesn't have to be like a paragraph long public comment. Yeah.
So it's more a summary of what the NAB was saying about it, not
Right.
your personal
Yes.
comments.
Yes, just like
Okay.
if there was a large concern, let's say from the board members or the public that maybe you didn't feel was addressed, that you want the Planning Commission to know, that's where you would kind of lodge that. Anything else? Okay. We will move on to the training topic. So I'm going to move through how to track planning cases through the entitlement process. We're going to kind of go through each of these process steps and what these resources are down below and how you can access them. So starting with intake, the planning department will accept most applications twice a month on the second and fourth Monday of each month. When an application is submitted, planning will review it for initial completeness and accept it or reject it. Once it's accepted, the project is scheduled for a NAB. and a hearing, either the planning commission or city council. The planning department will then mail out courtesy notices to a specific radius of property owners, the NAB, and other affected property owners. So if you've ever received those pink quarter sheet notices, those are the courtesy notices that the planning department mails out. During the intake process, members of the public can access project information from the development projects newsletter and the permit portal. So the development projects newsletter is one of the newsletters I included on one of those earlier slides. It's sent after each intake to internal city departments, external agencies, and members of the public. It provides information on current development projects, including identifying project information. So you can see this is one of the projects we saw tonight, the River Hill setback deviation. It'll include the case number and the case name, property information, important dates such as the NAB and the hearing, project description, and a map depicting the location of the project. It will also include a link to the application up here. This links to the One Nevada Regional Permitting Portal, which I'll show in a couple slides, and a link to provide early comments or feedback. So once the planning department accepts a project, it'll start analyzing it. Other city departments are also routed it, engineering, building, fire, et cetera. And external agencies might also review it, organizations like RTC, NDOT, Washoe County Health, that sort of thing. So during the review process, the applicant, like tonight, will come to the NAB, and the planning department will spend that time collecting some public feedback and reviewing the project. So this will include the project review worksheets. Now tonight we had one project that the timing was a little off, so we don't get that feedback to planning as early as we'd like, but that is the goal. Throughout the review process, the documents are uploaded to the permit portal. That's the 1NV regional licensing portal. It serves Reno, Sparks, Washoe, and Douglas County. Anyone is able to search for business licenses, building permits, code enforcement cases, etc. So on this portal, you can search by address, parcel number, or case number. You can find project information, records, and contact information. So I've searched the project we saw tonight, the River Hill setback deviation. And the first thing that will pull up is a map with these record details on the bottom. So you can see our presenter, McKenna's contact information if you wanted more information on the project, and you can see the description that's included in the agenda as well. If you're looking for more information, you can open up the record info and find the processing status so you can see where it is in the queue with planning and the other city departments. And more importantly, in my opinion, you can look at the attachments. So if you select the attachments, it'll show you all the records that have been uploaded to the project. And all you have to do is look at the type. So if you're looking for the application, you can see it under the type and then go over. And if you click the name of the file that's in blue text, that'll download the file to your device. So if you're looking for any documents related to a planning project, this is where you'd look to find them. Right, hopefully everyone has seen the NAB newsletter by now. It's distributed 3 business days before the meeting when the meeting agenda is posted. So from there, you can open and view the agenda. You can register for the Zoom meeting, or you can also register from the Zoom meeting from the agenda. The newsletter serves as the perfect reminder to confirm your attendance if you haven't already, or if you know you've said you're going to be there, but something has changed. This is a great reminder to just contact me and let me know. Right, next up, the project is scheduled for a city council or a planning commission meeting. At this time, the planning department will work with the applicant or their representative to fulfill the legal noticing requirements. So this includes mailing the legal notices to that same group of people who received the courtesy notices. These are the half-page yellow cardstock legal notices, if you've ever received those in the mail. Additionally, the applicant will post a physical notice at the project location. These are those usually 3 by 4 foot yellow signs that say public notice at the top that you'll see around town. And then lastly, an ad is published in the Reno Gazette Journal. Once again, you can follow the project process and find records on the 1NV portal. But the nice thing is that that same development projects newsletter that's released at the beginning of a project also includes a list of planning cases scheduled for upcoming city council or planning commission meetings. So when you see this newsletter, you can go down to the bottom and see what's coming up at an upcoming meeting. Right, the last step is the actual meeting. Just like the NAB agendas, the city uses newsletters to distribute the city council and the planning commission agendas. In addition, the meetings are broadcast live on the City of Reno's YouTube page, and then the planning department will upload the final decision letter to the permit portal within 24 to 48 hours. This is what the meeting portal looks like if you haven't seen it before. So this is Reno.Gov/meetings. It's the hub for all meeting materials for any and all boards and commissions, including this one. There you'll find upcoming and past meetings with agendas, agenda packets, and minutes. I recommend viewing the HTML agenda, and we can look at that later if the board wishes to. They're very user-friendly, whereas sometimes the PDF packets, when they're very large, like at a council meeting or a long planning commission meeting, it can take a long time and affect your device a little bit. All right, so the last newsletter I haven't showed you yet is the City Council Agendas newsletter. That and the Planning Commission Agendas newsletter, they look very similar to the NAB newsletter. You can view the agenda, register for the Zoom meeting, and provide public comment with these newsletters. I do want to note that the Planning Commission Agendas newsletter is sent to the same group as the Development Projects newsletter. So if you sign up for Development Projects, you're going to also receive the Planning Commission Agendas. All right, that was a lot of information. I wanted to condense all of the resources onto one slide so you can revisit this if you need to find this information. I have two more resources for you on the following slides to conclude. All right, the first is the land development projects page. So let's say you want to see those development projects newsletters that the planning department publishes twice a month, but you don't want to receive an email to your inbox. The planning department actually uploads them onto this land development projects page. So you can see with the path in the dark blue on the bottom right, that's where you'll get to it. But again, it's also linked in that gold text. So this is nested on the development services part of Reno.Gov. So they'll include links to the previous newsletters for about the past year. They also provide a list of rejected applications and a link to provide feedback. I like to advise people to use this feedback link is the same one that's included on the development projects newsletter. That one goes directly to the planning department so they can route it to the planner. I like to advise people to use it for early feedback. If you have something that you think should be incorporated or just initial thoughts. On the earlier slide with the additions from the boards and commissions resolution, where I outlined the different avenues of public comment, the public comment link on there, I like to say is more for getting it directly to the planning commission. Regardless, any comment you submit should be included as a staff report or uploaded separately as public comment. But I like to make that distinction because it's kind of at two different stages in the project.
Hey, Kelly, on that one,
Yeah.
does this include land development projects that have already been approved and you're wondering what stage it might be in?
I would say they could be in those newsletters, but I would say if there's a specific project you're looking to find what happened, I would go to the permit portal because that way you can see the attachments and you'll know for sure if there's a decision letter on there. But if you're kind of wondering where something is, you could always email me or email planning. All right, the last resource is the community development zoning map. The map outlines ward boundaries, zoning designations, and various overlays in the city and is a great resource for understanding the zoning in your community and the city as a whole. So I've turned on the City of Reno wards layer on this one. So you can see Ward 5 is kind of in this yellow shading. So I recommend you all take a look exploring the map. And if you ever have any questions about how this works, just let me know and I'm happy to walk anyone through it. That said, I've provided some of the upcoming meetings. So we have the Planning Commission meeting tomorrow. Reminder on those project review worksheets, if you get them into me by about noon, I can get them uploaded before the meeting. And then we have the City of Reno Council meeting next week on Wednesday, and our next meeting is in December since our regular meeting date falls on Veterans Day in November. But that wraps up the training and anything else I have to say. Does anyone have any questions? We're going to move into Secretary of Election next, so if you have any questions on that.
I had a
here.
question on the city council meetings. Is there minutes or a transcript that's released? I've never been able to find that. I don't want to watch the 7 hour.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah.
I know it can take a while for the minutes to come through because they have to prepare them and then they have to go to the meeting and be drafted. And I know they're doing live transcription now. I'm not 100% certain where they're stored. So I'll check up on that and I'll get back to you, Lindsay.
I think that should just be posted on the website for anyone
Yeah.
to see.
Understandable. I'll check in on that. Anything else?
Great, thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
I know the city's been working hard on getting the newsletters together and all that and condensing all the information into the easy access.
Yeah.
So let's move on to A3, election of officer, selection of board secretary. Is anybody volunteering?
You're going to work really closely with me, which should be incentive enough.
Danny Martindale, for the record, I'd like to nominate Cami.
Tammy, you can say whatever you'd like.
I have questions.
Sure.
Okay, so I think we're all busy and I think we
Sure.
all like are very hesitant to take up extra tasks. So I know that, okay, so this meeting, for example, is recorded.
It is recorded. Yeah.
Does it have a transcript that comes out of that recording?
I've seen that Zoom has a feature
Yes,
for
it
some
does.
kind of AI transcription. It's not something we have entertained yet. I think there's some, from what I've been told, we have to talk to the attorney's office to see what we can and can't use and how accurate they are.
Right.
So it's not something we're using right now. Ultimately, you know, after the meeting, I would be sending the board secretary the recording. It's also posted on the city's YouTube page within about 24 hours. So I think if there was something you needed to help you do it, but ultimately I'm going to be reviewing it for accuracy as well.
That's
Does that make
great. Yeah, I
sense?
think that's, I mean, AI is not that I would rely upon, but I think it's
Right.
definitely something that this is exactly why it was created, to be
Yeah.
able to help with this. There's always a
Yeah.
human in the mix, though.
Right. We've had
So I don't mean,
other, you know, council members and board members ask about it. So it's something we're looking into. It's just something we don't have nailed down at this moment.
Okay. Okay. So one more question. So in doing something like this, how quickly would I need to wrap around to get whatever established with you? I would assume enough time for it to be uploaded for review for the next meeting. How's that go?
Yeah,
Cadence?
I've been giving other secretaries a week, but that's the absolute, like, preparation for the meeting happens about a week and a half before time. So if it takes 2.5 weeks for the secretary to get the minutes done, it's not a problem. I would say 2.5 weeks is the absolute maximum.
And last question on this term would be for a year?
This one, so trial run, October, November, December. We're going to redo elections in January. And that said, if a secretary was ever going to miss a meeting, we would have to select I don't think we'll have to select a presiding officer, but we'll need to make sure that there's coverage for the secretary if they're going to miss.
Okay, great. I'll give it a go for a few months, sure.
Okay, Denny, do you want to make a motion? Will you just make a motion to elect?
Denny Martindale, for the record, I move that we nominate Cami LaRue for the position of secretary.
Jessica Bullard Nolan, for the record, I second the motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All right,
Congratulations.
motion carries unanimously.
3-month term.
All right, we can go on to D, board commission committee member reports and announcements.
Lindsay Darrow for the record. I don't know if this is the right place, but I did want to, I don't know any of your experience, but the only issue that I have since I've been on the board, gotten a ton of, well, a few people, random people contacting me, like with my phone. I didn't even know my phone number was available, has been about the ADU ordinance. And our committee never got a chance to talk about that, which is disappointing. I think more disappointing, I got interested in it because people were calling me about it. And I was like, what is this? So I was watching watching the city council meetings. People explain the process. Apparently there was over a year process where the council engaged with the community, had recommendations, and addressed some of the big concerns that came out of that process. One of the biggest concerns was the short-term rental issue, that people didn't want to unleash a bunch of ADUs with short-term rentals. And so I actually made a public comment about this in one of the council meetings, and I was curious to see what happened. And the city council actually directly stripped that out of the what the feedback was from the community process, decided to take out the restriction on short-term rentals, and they did pass it. So we never talked about it in our session, and that was kind of like a very cynical first experience, I think, that all of this process to engage the community and sort of like the number one concern people have was recommended by the process and then directly taken out. And it was particularly cynical because it was when an Airbnb lobbyist, the same session, they came up and said, please take this out. So I don't have any point other than to raise how I felt about that process. And I think it has been a big issue for our community because it's the only issue that I've ever heard random people contacting me about. The fact that we never had a chance to give any feedback. It feels like maybe we could have bumped it back. Council could have bumped it back a month so that all the neighborhood advisory boards could have actually talked about this big issue. I think a lot of people were sort of appeased by the fact that if you live in an HOA area, that still holds the day. So anyone living in an HOA area can basically outlaw that themselves. But everyone else is feeling like they were thrown under the bus on that. So I don't know what my recommendation is, but I do want, as a board member, I just wanted to register that definitely did not sit well. And my understanding is they're going to talk about short-term rentals in the future, but in the meantime, an unlimited number will be unleashed on the community. And it's not like we don't have data from the rest of the world fighting people opening mini hotels in their backyards. I mean, this creates a lot of community issues. So I don't know what my point is in bringing. That's just, it's definitely an issue the community cares about enough to randomly call neighborhood advisory board members. And I don't know if that's been your experience. Anyone else on the board?
I was also contacted by people who got my phone number somehow on this issue, and I don't know if it's I don't think it's representative of a certain segment of the population. I think it's just a couple of very interested people who took that extra step. And I would hope that, future processes include short-term rentals and all sorts of things when it comes to housing. And I think that it's a complex issue with trying to get people under roofs. So there's that, there's maintaining, generational care. There's all sorts of pros and cons to this issue. And it would have been great to be able to talk about it because to be fully informed. But yeah, I did get contacted as well.
I have a question about the contacts you got. Do you think that they were actual grassroots regular people, or they were people who were drummed up by an interest group?
Yeah, I think they were definitely grassroots interested members. They aren't necessarily representative of the sentiment, right? But the city had a good process for gathering community sentiment. And then they got a result from that and then stripped out the most important bit of feedback. That's the problem that I have with the whole process.
And I would just add that that type of feedback is the most critical piece to the entire process. So I think the point that you're raising is important. And Callie, I just, if you can send that feedback up the chain, because those are the people's, voices really need to get heard. And if 2 board members were contacted and we weren't able to input into that process, that's a shame.
Yeah, of course. It was unfortunate that we had to cancel that meeting due to a lack of quorum. I'm sorry that it happened that way. And we're trying to make sure that the board is as informed as it can be and trying to prevent things from like that from happening when it was coming to this board and then going to council the very next day or the very next week, or like the project we saw tonight that's going to planning commission the very next day. That's not our intention. So we try to avoid that. But if there's ever anything that, the board is like, I'm hearing about this, I don't understand what's happening, please reach out to me. I'm happy to connect you all or find the information so we can make sure that you and the public are informed.
Yeah, and Kelly, I appreciate you sending us calendar invites. I think that part of this is just bad timing. We weren't able to have that second meeting.
Yeah.
A lot of us were just put onto the board. We didn't have it in our calendars. I don't think it's any fault of your own. Thank you for getting that on everyone's calendar.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Cami.
You sent out an email maybe a month or 2 ago, and it had links to where we could see the status of our terms and whatnot. It has all of our emails and phone numbers on that, and it's public access. So that's how they're contacting you.
Right. Any information that the city receives is public record. So that's why everything's on there. I don't think as board members you're required to answer people's phone calls. So keep that in mind. But yeah.
Is there a way to get our phone numbers taken off of that if they are?
I can look into it. I know we did that for everyone. We did that for all the boards and commissions because it's public record, but I can look into that, Corey.
And it does happen for other developments as well. So just usually they're emails, and that you can take it when you want. Phone calls are a different thing, I guess. All right, let's move on to future agenda items. None. Like I'd like to see something about that Mayan and Avenida Delanda. What's going on with the light? Kids getting run over.
Yeah, thank you, Bryce. I
Not
have a note. I might reach out to you if I need more information, but I have a note to check in on that.
I was hoping Councilmember Reese would be here because I know he's been out there
Mhm.
as well as RTC and NDOT and the Reno RPD.
Yeah.
So everybody's kind of already getting involved, but it's only been in the last week that during this fall break, they made a bunch of changes to that intersection.
Okay.
And
Oh.
so an update would be nice.
Okay, I'll connect with the council liaison as well.
Okay. Any others? No? All right, F, public comment.
I have nothing registered. I do not have anyone in Zoom with their hand raised.
Okay, great. Can I get a motion to adjournment?
Lindsay Darrow, motion to adjourn.
I'm a lowly alternate, so
Just say
can I
something.
second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kelly.
Are you collecting these?
I am, yes.
Okay.